Welcome to StudyIQ. My name is Bhuvan Apurvaja. This is your daily dose of news analysis, editorial edge. Today's agenda is 4 articles, 4 topics that you ought to have a good look at. Okay, and we'll also discuss questions from yesterday. We discussed 3 topics yesterday, so the MCQs arising out of that will be discussed. And then we'll take a look at the 4 topics, all from the prelims point of view, except the last one. Okay, the last topic that I have for you is elementary education in rural India. Now this topic is to be looked at exclusively from the mains perspective. Okay, and thereafter, after this discussion has been done, I will share a question on my Telegram channel at around noon. Okay, and I will expect answers to that. Okay, so we will look to analyze, say, Right to Education 2009 and say the practical problems on the ground. Okay, what you can include as points in your mains answer if you're asked to say analyze right to education or primary level education or any of those particular topics. So the last topic is going to be addressed towards that. First one we'll take a look at is Assam Rifles, the history of Assam Rifles. And I think it's pertinent because again, an FIR has been launched at the Assam Rifles, okay, because of the ongoing problems in Manipur. So we ought to have a look at what Assam Rifles does, what that organization stands for. Okay. Thereafter, number 2 is the Belém Declaration. So straight from Assam Rifles from the northeast of India, I'll take you to South America. Okay. And we'll take a look at Belém Declaration. Thank you. We'll take a look at Belém Declaration and what exactly is the consequence. You know, a group of nations that are in, say, the Amazon River Basin. Okay. The Amazon River, one of the most important rivers when you consider across the world, Amazon, Nile, Ganga, Yangtze, these are the bigger rivers that you always talk about. So Amazon River Basin and the ecosystem that it supports and the Belém Declaration that has just been announced yesterday, what is the consequence of that? Okay, that's going to be number 2. And then from South America, I'll take you to Taipei, Taiwan, where you find that 3 ex-Indian Armed Forces chiefs are attending the Ketagalan Forum or Conference. Okay, so we'll take a look at what the Ketagalan Forum or Conference is, and we'll also seek to understand what does the presence of these army chiefs, navy chiefs and air force chief means for, say, India-Taipei relationships or New Delhi-Taipei relationships. Okay. Good morning, Ratna, Sai Krishna, Bulbul, Smita, Jyotsna, Avni. Good morning, guys. Welcome. Thanks for joining. Okay. So this is my Telegram channel. If you go ahead and join, scan this, will take you to straight my Telegram channel, where you will find the PDF of this lecture uploaded along with the mains question that I will be asking you to answer in, say, around 200 words. And for the answer for that, you will be sending me on my email ID. That's bhuvan.jha@gmail.com. Okay. All right. Let's get started. First, let's take a look at the questions of yesterday. So we discussed 3 topics yesterday. So we just will take a look at the questions arising out of it. Many of you have answered the questions in the comment box, which I applaud. To the rest, may I implore you, go ahead and answer the questions. It will help you in the overall conceptualization of the particular topic. Suresh, welcome. Good morning. Which of the following is or are the reasons behind drug stability studies? Yesterday we took a very active look at drug stability. We took a look at what active ingredient is, and we took a look at what inactive ingredients are. Okay, all in the context of, say, pharma products. Okay, and so now by now, if you have gone through the lecture, you know that drug stability is to do with the potency, the efficacy of that particular medicine remaining constant over time, that it does not change physical shape, nor does it lose its chemical properties. Okay, so chemical degradation of the active drug, correct. So it should not degrade and become a toxic product. Like I told you, if the active ingredient is not uniform across a particular time period, it has the ability to either cause side effects, adverse effects, or no effects at all. So you had the tablet, you are still miserable. It did not solve the problem that you are confronted with. Okay, so this also is correct. Changes in the physical appearance, which means when it was, say, produced, if the tablet was this was the dimension of the tablet, say after 6 months, if it becomes something like this, well, then that is loss of drug stability, that it has changed physical form, it has deteriorated. Okay, so this is also correct, which means all of the above are correct, answer being D here. Okay. Ratna, no problems. Thanks for joining. I'm happy to see your participation. Do consider answering the questions also. Shubhankar, good morning. Good morning. Okay, let's take a look at question number 2. An active ingredient is a drug responsible for relief to the person or the animal. Yes, this is what it does. Active ingredient is the actual problem solver for your disease, for the problem that you are facing. Whereas ingredient, the inactive ingredient, is the carrier. It's the vehicle on which active ingredient travels throughout your body. Okay, so inactive ingredient does have a functionality. It is in fact the carrier of the active ingredient. Okay, if it did not have a functionality, why would you include it in a medicine? Think from the logical point of view. Obviously, if you have included it in the medicine, it needs to have some purpose. Okay, so straightforward, this is incorrect. The WHO Global Center for Traditional Medicine. This is located not in Haridwar, but it is located in Jamnagar, which is in the state of Gujarat. Okay, so the incorrect statements here are 2 and 3, which is B and C, sorry. Okay, B and C being your incorrect statements. Let's look at the third question. Bedaquiline is for multi-resistant TB. Okay, we have done extensively. In fact, the Prime Minister also went ahead and announced a TB-free India resolve. Okay, so tuberculosis will remain a focus area for us always, leading up to the examination next year. Okay, penicillin is for say bacterial infections. Okay, bacterial infections including say meningitis, or if any sort of bacterial infections, you look at penicillin. Okay, antiretroviral therapy is for HIV, whereas antiviral is for influenza. Obviously, you say no, mujhe viral ho gaya hai. What does that mean? That you are under some sort of say a mild influenza, which means you're going to take an antiviral drug. So obviously, this antiviral is for influenza, which means none of the above are correctly matched here. All right, let's go forward. This is again a question from UPSC 2018, previous year question. Okay. With reference to the Parliament of India, which of the following committee scrutinizes and reports to the House, and then everything that is mentioned there? Yesterday's question, you will know that government assurances is to do with the assurances, the promises that are made by the government. The committee goes ahead and scrutinizes and analyzes them, whether those assurances, those promises are being kept. Okay. Subordinate legislation is exactly what this whole thing is about. That you go ahead and look at each rule, regulation, sub-rule, bylaw, take a look at it. Essentially, the broad underlying framework of the law. You know, you have a policy that is backed by say clause and sub-clause of details and sub-details. So the subordinate legislation goes ahead, that committee goes ahead and looks at it, clause by clause, rule by rule, bylaw by bylaw. Okay. Thereafter, you have the Rules Committee, which looks at, say, whether the proceedings of the House are being followed in accordance with the rules of the House. Okay. By now, if you have been following this regularly, you know the difference between, say, Rule 267, okay, adjournment motion, Rule 176. We have discussed that, you know. So the Rules Committee will be ensuring that, okay, all of those rules are being followed from, say, hour to hour, day to day, session to session. Supravat Arka, बहुत स्वागत है आपका. ठीक है. And Business Advisory Committee is essentially, it looks at the schedule of the House. Okay. How is it going to function? What bill will be taken up on consideration on which day? Okay. So for now, if you have been following, the no confidence motion is in order. Okay. Today I think is 10th. Tomorrow the reply from the Prime Minister will come. Today you will have the series of speeches from both sides, Treasury bench as well as opposition bench, which means that the regular proceedings of the House stand suspended. You only have the question hour that starts at say 11. Goes up till 12. Thereafter, no confidence motion starts at 12, 12:05, 12:10. After the papers are laid on the table of the House, whatever is pending, that 5-10 minutes is taken. And then you see that no confidence motion, the whole thing starts for the whole rest of the day. Which means that the actual business of the House stands suspended, while that must have been decided by the Business Advisory Committee. Clear? Alright, let's go forward. Select Committee, what does it do? Well, we discussed it in detail yesterday. Select Committee, whenever a bill is referred to a Select Committee, their job is to look at each and every clause, suggest changes, suggest recommendations. You also have the Minister in relation to that particular bill, who's also a part of the Select Committee. Okay. So you go ahead, suggest recommendations, all of those is given. However, it's non-binding on the government. Okay, the government is under no compulsion to accept those recommendations. They may choose to do so, or they may not. absolutely their freedom in that. Okay. Committee on petitions. Now, committee on petitions is important. Okay. So you have a provision in the House wherein, say, a parliamentary committee can go ahead and take representations from organizations, from individuals, for, say, matters of public importance. Now you might think, okay, so can I go ahead and suggest a petition myself? Yes, you can. But then there are two clauses for it. One, it should not be anonymously signed. So you can't go ahead and sign an anonymous letter and send it to the petitions committee and hope that it will be taken cognizance of. No. Okay. So anonymous suggestions not included. Thereafter, you are not going to give them a copy. For example, if you have written an actual petition to, say, the President of India, and then down below in the letter you have written CC to Prime Minister's office, CC to Petitions Committee, CC to, say, Cabinet Secretary. You have written to all of these individuals. In that case, the Petitions Committee is under no obligation to go ahead and accept your petition. Do you realize this? It has to be directly addressed with your name, number, signature, Aadhaar card, PAN card, whatever details they ask, so as to ensure transparency, that it is that petition, that suggestion is coming from a citizen of India. Do you realize that's the whole motivation behind it? Okay. So, petitions committee does, in fact, sorry, not this entertains representation from individuals. Business advisory committee, I just told you. An estimates committee takes a look at departments. Okay. कितना खर्चा कर रहे हैं? क्या ज़्यादा खर्चा कर रहे हैं जितना मांगा था? You realize that? That's the whole point. That I will suggest economies. That you don't overstretch your financial limit. Okay. That if I have given you a budget of, say, $100, 100 rupees, you are going to make sure that the whole thing is done in 100 and not 120. I am going to suggest economies for you. Shivankar, I'm glad you enjoyed it. Thank you. Thanks for your feedback. Made my day. Thank you. All right. So the answers here are laid out for you. Okay. Which one is the odd one out here, by the way? Because I have 4 options and 5 here. So, this one. Considering the question of contempt of the House, that is ambit, the domain of the privilege committee. You know right now that the question on select committee membership that we just discussed, that you and your, say, fellow members have said that, okay, let the bill be referred to a select committee. Now that select committee membership, say you and your friends have decided, well, that membership needs to be ascertained. So now the case in Rajya Sabha is that the member of parliament did not ascertain the veracity of his fellow members of parliament in their membership for the select committee, which is why it could be a case of misrepresentation, which is why you find that those other members of parliament have gone ahead, submitted a complaint to the chairperson, the chairman, Jagdeep Dhankad, Vice President of India, and now that matter may be referred to a privilege committee, because by misrepresenting, you may have breached the privilege of the other fellow members of parliament. That is the whole story of the select committee and the privilege committee. ठीक है? Alright, let's look at this. Estimate committee, straight away, suggest economies. Okay? Suggest economies for central administration, for departments, for organizations, basically making sure that the house is in financial order. Okay? And finally, these 2 questions from previous years, we discussed World Tribal Day, Indigenous Peoples Day that was observed yesterday by the United Nations, Youth for Self-Determination, the theme for this year. So this question from 2021, just 2 years ago, with reference to India, the term Halbi, Ho and Kui pertain to what? They are obviously tribal languages of India. Okay? And more importantly, what you ought to remember is the script in which these languages are written. Okay? Obviously, the distribution of the language is important, but by understanding the distribution, largely you can figure out what the script will be. Okay? So, for example, when you find that Halbi is spoken extensively in Chhattisgarh, Madhya Pradesh and Odisha. Okay? So, what do you find straight away? That Halbi is written in Devanagari. Okay? Primarily, you can say Hindi-speaking states. Thereafter, you look at, say, Ho language. Ho is again to do with the Munda tribe. The Jharkhand, West Bengal, Bangladesh also, in fact. Parts of Bangladesh also speak the Ho language. So, obviously, you're not going to have, say, a Devanagari script there. What you find is the Varang city script. Okay, that is what it is written in. And thereafter, the Kui, which is spoken in Odisha, which means obviously no Devanagari script, it will be written in the Odia script. know the language so that you have a basic idea of the script, because eventually language is written in some form or the other. So the script is important for you. And particularly vulnerable tribal groups, a consequence of the Dhebar Commission. Okay, they came up with a certain criteria. The Dhebar Commission came up with certain criteria to identify this subset within the tribal population of India. And what was the criteria for being recognized as a PVTG, a particularly vulnerable tribal group? Number one, that you go ahead and you have a declining population. Okay, that the birth rate is low, the death rate is high. Number two, that your agricultural infrastructure or the technology that you use is not updated, is not modern. You're also looking at low literacy levels and economic backwardness. These are the four criteria on which the PVTGs are identified in India. Okay, I've written them down, all of them here, the four criteria. So you have the stagnant population, then you have low tech in agriculture, low literacy levels and economic backwardness. If you fulfill even one of these criteria, and if you belong to say the ST group, then you qualify to become a PVTG, a particularly vulnerable tribal group. Okay, found across 18 states in India and one union territory. The one union territory being Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Okay, and irregular, well, this is I think in the state of Tamil Nadu. Irregular is Tamil Nadu, whereas the Kondarendi tribe is from Telangana. Okay, Telangana, the Khammam district. Okay, the Khammam district, you find the Kondarendi tribe. Okay, what is Khammam district also known for? Can someone tell me? What else is Khammam district known for? Let me know if you know the answer in the chat. Okay, so the answers here being 1, 2 and 4, because there are only 75 of them. Now you see, certain students will tell you that, oh, you know what, you don't need to remember numbers. When it comes to your own country, no, numbers are important. See example, UPSC 2019. Okay, you might know everything about say PVTGs and STs and the problems they face, the issues, the challenges, the policies, perspective, everything. But in the end, if you do not know that there are 75 of them throughout the country, you are going to get this question wrong. So don't let anyone tell you that stats are not important. At least in terms of your own country, stats are very important. Okay, this is a basic misconception that most of you might have, that those stats are not asked in UPSC. Well, they are asked to a certain extent, absolutely. Okay, all right. So these were the questions of yesterday, and these are my star individuals once again. A lot of familiar names that I find. Okay, Pranjul, Shubham, Jyotsna, Mandeep, Tanu, Pooja, Karuna, Ash J, Aditya and Akshay. Okay, thank you so much firstly for your participation, for your encouragement. I have received messages in my email also for this initiative that it's helping you consolidate your particular understanding of a topic. So I'm grateful for your faith and assurance. To the rest, I go ahead. Please answer the questions. Consider answering the questions. You will see for yourself a tangible change within say 2 to 3 weeks. It's not going to take a long time to see that change within your understanding. Okay. All right. Let's get started with today's class. And the first order of business is Assam Rifles. Okay. Majorly in the news because you see that the Manipur police has gone ahead and launched a FIR against the Assam Rifles. Okay. So now the FIR is not important for us. Namaskar Rahul. Welcome. So the FIR is not important for us in terms of understanding. But as an organization, let's look at Assam Rifles now. Okay. So you must know by now that India has CAPFs. In fact, there is an examination also, which many of you will appear. Most students who prepare for UPSC appear for the CAPF, the Central Armed Police Forces of India. Okay. Now, how many types of CAPFs are there? Okay. So first you understand the subcategorization. The purpose of each CAPF, So you have the border guarding forces. Their specific purpose is to man the borders, which means you're looking at Assam Rifles, Border Security Force, SSB and ITBP. Then you have the internal security ones, the CRPF for say law and order situations, and the CISF for say your industrial locations, your airports, all of the key sensitive areas, installations that are manned by the CISF. Then you are looking at a special task force, which is the NSG, the National Security Guard, okay, which was say in operation that you must have found during 26/11. Okay. So these are the primary subcategorizations of CAPF, with each having a specific role. First things first. So if the examination asks you now, okay, which of the following paramilitary forces are responsible for internal security in India? Your first instinct is going to be that, well, all of them. No. The internal security angle is taken care by only these two, CRPF and CISF. Okay. So that is the first understanding that you need to know. Now, what is a paramilitary force? So you have, say, the military, that is for, say, external aggression, controlling it, and, say, launching an aggressive maneuver. Now, those after the, say, 1962 war, okay, if you look at, say, paramilitary forces and their development, 1962 war is an epochal time for them. It changed a lot of things in the Indian security paradigm. What was eventually realized was that the whole onus of security can't be just left to, say, the armed forces. You need a secondary subset that is going to supplement those efforts and have varied roles and usages throughout the country during peacetime. Okay. So thus you see that after 62, most of these organizations see the light of the day. Okay. Sir, it's important for social security for us or not, sir? To what relation, Suresh? Can you just clear that for me? I'll help you out. Whatever is the, I'm not sure of the question actually. Okay. So now, the administrative control of the Assam Rifles. Please understand, it is the only central armed police force to have a dual model of governance, you can say. Okay. So it's administrative control, which means, say, transfer postings, ACRs, who gets what post. Okay. All of that, benefits, perks, all of that come from the Ministry of Home Affairs. Okay. However, the operational control, which means the tactics to be used, okay, the training, all of that is handled by the MOD, which is essentially the Indian Army. Okay. So it's the only paramilitary force to have a dual control. That's your first learning. Assam Rifles. Okay. Now the officers of the Assam Rifles are deputed from the army, plus you have the Assam Rifles cadre. Now if you have to clear the CAPF examinations, or if you have to speak to someone who has, say, cleared CAPF examination, serving in, say, CRPF, SSB, ITBP, wherever. Okay. One of the primary grouse, or say the primary sadness, you can say. The primary sadness of these officers is that their promotion scope is limited. What does that mean? So, for example, you get ahead and clear CAPF 2024. Okay. You go ahead, clear this, and finally become an assistant commandant. Okay, you become an assistant commandant and then you hope to go ahead and lead the organization someday, become, say, the Director General of BSF. Well, that's not a possibility for you. Because you must have observed Director Generals or, say, the senior positions of all of these bodies normally is given to an IPS officer who is recruited by, again, the UPSC, but through a different examination. So now there are several challenges that we also need to understand through this brief 15-minute lecture. Okay. So first things first, because you have, say, two cadres that are operating side by side, army people, army officers coming on deputation, and then those who are recruited through the CAPF examination now serving in the Assam Rifles cadre. Then you also find the Indian Police Service. Okay, all of that is included in the CAPF. So now let's look at this. Assam Rifles, the oldest paramilitary force of India. Okay, its origin is in 1835. In fact, the oldest plus the most decorated, which means that they have received the most awards, citations, all of that. Okay. So the oldest paramilitary force, 1835, primarily raised for the Assam's fertile plains and the tea gardens. So you had tribesmen descend from the hills, ravage these tea gardens, have violence, arson, all of that was there. So the tea garden owners, the individuals there, came up with the Assam Rifles, which was essentially called as the Kachar levy. Okay, Kachar levy. Kachar is the old name for Silchar, which is again in Assam. Okay, near Silchar you have the Barak river. Okay, see, the Kachar levy was the first name of this particular organization. Now after the Sino-Indian War of 1962, this becomes again a very epochal time, very important if you want to understand the CAPF structure of India. So after the War of 62, it comes under the administration of Ministry of Home Affairs. In fact, what you find is just after independence, because again it existed during independence, its control was given to the Ministry of External Affairs. Okay. So the Assam Rifles control has changed hands several times. First it was with the External Affairs Ministry, then you had the Home Ministry come in, then you had a model where it was Home Ministry plus Defence Ministry. Clear? Now since 2002, it is looking after the Indo-Myanmar border. So what do you find? That the CAPF, the three, in fact these ones, have a look at this. The border guarding forces, each of them have been given a specific domain, an area. Okay. So you're looking at Assam Rifles for Myanmar. Okay. BSF, you're looking for say Pak and Bangladesh. Okay. SSB, you're looking for say Nepal. And ITBP, you're looking for say China. Okay. That is the operational area, you can say. All right. So first, let's go ahead and take a look at, this is for Indo-Myanmar, and obviously they have gone ahead and served abroad also. Op Pawan, where was it held, guys? Operation Pawan. Can someone tell me? What is the IPKF? What is Operation Pawan? Regular watchers should be able to tell me fatak se. बहुत आसान है ये. ठीक है? Now the challenges. So you have a basic idea of the challenges that I have given you. Number one, the only paramilitary force with a dual control structure. So what happens? Firstly, what you're finding is that there is horizontal differentiation in the CAPFs, and then you're also finding vertical differentiation. Now what does this mean? What does this mean? So within an organization, not all officers are considered equal, and all organizations across the CAPFs also have say varied level of importance. Okay, it's like cadre system, understand it that way. So for example, the general consensus here is what? That say an Indian administrative service is a better service than say postal service, for example. Again, I'm not debating, I'm not even getting into the debate. But the general consensus or the general feeling. Similarly, that kind of feeling exists for the CAPF also, that some are say high ranked, the better ones, and some are say not that great. So their funding is limited, their training scope is limited. So that affects eventually what? Your career progression. If you are not assured career progression, if your promotions are not timely, it's low morale. Which means what? It becomes a defunct organization, or not an organization that can function up till the level of efficiency that is desired when it comes to internal security or say border security. Samajh rahe ho aap? So there is horizontal plus vertical differentiation. Now if you're writing the answer down in the mains, use this term, that CAPFs in India are victims of horizontal and vertical differentiation. Okay, you're looking at uniform application of benefits. So for example, the army individuals, they're looking at one rank, one pension, all of this is extended to them, correct? The same is not extended to say CAPF officers. There was an unfortunate incident, I think just not long ago, where say a group of 75 plus CRPF soldiers were martyred because say they were surrounded by the extremists, left-wing extremists from all sides. So a whole inquiry was conducted, and what was found? That say the best practices that are there when it comes to a security challenge, that were not followed. So for example, if a particular company goes and rests in the forest, so you need to have lookouts, sentries need to be there, because again it's a whole company that is there, 120 people are there. Do you realize this? Good morning Pranjul, welcome. Samajh rahe ho? So if a company is there in the middle of the forest resting, 120 people, which means you need at least 5 sentries from all sides to make sure that you are protecting the lives and interests of these 120 people. That was not done. That they're overworked and underpaid. You must have seen, no, CRPF is involved everywhere, from election, conduction of election, to left-wing extremism, to VIP duty. Kahin pe bhi lag jata hai wo. Do you realize? Over-exploitation, overburdened with responsibilities. Your core area is something. You're doing everything except that. Okay. Stagnation in career, you will understand straight away. You clear CAPF, become an assistant commandant, celebrate, but then deep down you know that a day might come when you will have to retire without becoming the head of the organization. So what's your motivation to serve? Clear? Tussle between MHA and MOD, both want control of the Assam Rifles. Okay, the MHA says that, well, all CAPFs need to be under the Home Ministry. MOD says, Defence Ministry says, well, why fix something that is not broken? Assam Rifles is known as the Sentinels of the Northeast, the Friends of the Northeast. They have done extensive and good work in engaging community in the security structure. What happens if you change something that is not broken, that is not needing change? So again, that tussle is also there. Okay. And obviously upgradation in the changing security paradigm, especially in consideration of the China threat. That they operate in the northeast, which is again in the line of fire when it comes to China. So which means that they also need to be upgraded along with, say, the other upgradation that is happening. But since again they are a part of the CAPF, most of the upgradation is limited. So will that happen better if they were to be an independent body or not? These are the questions you will consider from the mains perspective. The prelims perspective, the answers here are pretty simple, straightforward. Okay? Alright. And then these are the issues with the other CAPFs, guys. Okay? Make a note of this because again we have discussed this. These are the common issues that you can see with Assam Rifles also. Okay? For example, number one, working conditions. Overworked, underpaid. Too many side duties except the core duty that you are supposed to do. Similar to say like what teachers in India are also, guys. Government teachers, no. So whenever you discuss say teaching in India, or say even today we'll discuss right to education in India. Okay, one of the primary criticism is that teachers are also overburdened and underpaid. That on Sundays and Saturdays they don't get free. Some days it is some engagement from the school. Some days they are doing election duty. Some days some training. Some days something else. Do you realize? So if you don't give a person off, weekly off भी नहीं दोगे आप, क्या motivation रहेगा काम करने का उसको? Okay. Who bears the election duty? That is done by the State Election Commission. Shubhankar, State Election Commission. Okay. That is done by the SEC. Okay, so these are the challenges of the CAPFs. Have a look at them. Fine. Let's look at the questions, guys. Which of the above are true? You will let me know in the chat box. Now, please don't get confused between these two entities, yeah? Today we discussed Assam Rifles, okay, which is between the MHA and the MOD, whereas then another similar sounding organization is the Assam Regiment, okay, which is a direct regiment of the Indian Army, okay. So don't get confused between them. This is question number 1. Question number 2, which particular organization handles which border? SSB, India Nepal, BSF, India Bangladesh, ITBP, India Bhutan, Assam Rifles, India Myanmar. Identify the correctly matched. Okay. Number 2. Number 3, NDRF. So let's discuss two more organizations now side by side. You have NDRF and then another organization that you must have heard of is the SPG. So NDRF, you have deputations, all deputies. There is no specific cadre for NDRF. All deputation from say the Indian Army, other paramilitary forces. So answer this question. NDRF comprises officers on deputation from all paramilitary forces except the National Security Guard. The operational control of NSG and SPG, okay, this is the Special Protection Unit, and NSG is the National Security Guard. So who controls them? You must know, no? When the Prime Minister walks, you have these gentlemen who walk alongside him, holding a suitcase, dressed in say formals with black shades and everything. Yes? So who are they? You will let me know. Who is the operation control? And where is the training center for NSG? Identify the correctly matched. Alright, you will go ahead and answer these for me. And yes, sir, welcome. Thanks for joining. Okay, this is question 3. Alright, now the Aranya series, the lecture 4 for this entire syllabus, where we are going to cover the entire syllabus of environment, ecology, forest, climate change for UPSC 2024. The 4th lecture of this goes live this evening at 9 p.m. Please do set your reminders. Do join me for this. We are going to discuss 3 topics extensively, but in the manner it is required for the examination. The first one will be succession. Okay. Then we'll look at homeostasis. And then finally, we'll take a look at pyramids. Okay. Up until now, we have discussed the flow of energy and matter in an ecosystem. This is going to be the agenda for the 4th lecture, 9 p.m. this evening. Please do join me live. Okay. Make sure that you join me. And if you haven't answered yet, so in the 3rd lecture, I have introduced some around 7-8 questions. Please do go ahead, attempt them, answer the question and leave them for me in the comment box. Okay. All right. Good, Shubhankar. Now let's look at the Belém Declaration. Belém is a town right at the mouth of the Amazon. Okay, Amazon River. So first you'll remember this, the geographical location. Belém is a town that is right at the mouth of the Amazon River. Here you have had the Amazon Summit. 8 nations of South America, which are a part of, say, the Amazon basin, came together for the Amazon Summit. Okay. And this aegis, under which organization did they come in? Well, it's an Amazon cooperation organization. We'll understand about the organization too. So in this Amazon Summit, a Belém declaration was put forward. Now let's look at first the issues. आप समझ जाओगे मैं क्या बोलना चाह रहा हूँ. Let's look at the map. हाँ. Okay. So this is the Amazon basin. 8 nations are part of this. Now the problem here is this. Number 1, deforestation. Number 2, oil mining. Okay. All of this is directly threatening Amazon. So these 8 countries met together for, say, fostering regional cooperation and also to find solutions for these 2 issues. How are we going to combat deforestation, oil mining, oil drilling, all of that? How are we going to do it? Because we are going to kill the Amazon rainforest this way. So the Belém Declaration was supposed to be this landmark declaration that will come for the health of the Amazon. Because you realize the health of the Amazon is critical for, say, in the face of climate change. It's a hotspot area. Lot of endemic species, plants, animals, movies have been made on snakes there. So you realize it's got some importance. Okay. So now, the Belém Declaration was signed during this Amazon Summit that just ended yesterday, by the way. So what has happened here? 8 Amazon nations, we'll discuss what are the 8 Amazon nations. They agreed to a list of unified environmental policies and measures to bolster regional cooperation, okay, but failed to agree on a common goal for ending deforestation. Now, why did this happen? Why did they not agree on ending deforestation? Okay. The issue is that Brazil is interested in oil drilling. So, which is why you found that the hosts were not very acquiescent to the idea, or say engaging with the idea that we should have a complete ban on deforestation, which was initially proposed. Okay. So, which is what you find, that because of lack of consensus, there is no particular announcement in the Belém Declaration about deforestation and controlling deforestation in the Amazon basin, in the Amazon area, which is also called as Amazonia, no? Okay. So it's an alliance for combating forest destruction, which has done nothing, in fact. So the countries have been left to pursue their own goals. As a unit, as a bloc, they haven't agreed to anything. Okay. So this is the organization, the Amazon Cooperation Treaty Organization. Again, 8 members like the 8 Amazon nations. They are a part of the ACTO. You will look at the major organizations. The one that you should focus on is this. We discussed India-Suriname relationships in this series some time ago. Chandrika Persad Santokhi, is it? The president of Suriname. So we had discussed, say, about Girmitias. Okay, there is a whole video that I have done on Girmitias. Go ahead and look it up on the StudyIQ English YouTube channel. So we have discussed who were the Girmitias, the India context to this conversation. Environment का तो आप समझ गए क्या हुआ, consensus तो हुआ ही नहीं. The India context to this area. You're looking at India-Suriname relations discussed in detail. Also looking at the history of Girmitias, those who left the country, traveled 7 seas across various nations, say for sugarcane farming. Okay. So the human rights issues associated with them, and eventually the resilience of the Girmitias as being refugees or say non-natives to that particular area, and now having climbed the ladders to become, say, president or vice president of those particular areas. That's the story of Girmitias and their resilience. Indentured laborers, absolutely correct, Avni. Okay. From the India perspective, this is what you look at. Okay. Next, the members of the ACTO. So this is essentially your membership that you're looking at. You're also looking at the fact that the Amazon River basin is pretty much the same area that it flows into. Okay. You have the whole basin here. And what do you find? As a river, no guys, as a river, the Amazon River, it has the highest volume of water discharge. Okay. which means the volume of water that it carries when it is at the mouth, just at the ocean, it is the highest amongst all rivers across the whole world. So you have, say, the Yellow River. It is known yellow because of the massive amount of siltation it carries. Did you know that? Yellow River is in which country, guys? Let me know. मुझे chat पे बताओ. So it is known yellow because of the massive siltation that it carries. Okay. You are looking at Brahmaputra. Huge volume of water it carries. Ganga, Nile. In spite of that, you find Amazon has the highest volume of water discharge. Why? Because the Amazon river basin is made up of 1100 plus rivers. Okay. Small, medium, large, हर तरह variety के मिलते हैं, पर 1100 rivers है वहाँ पे. Okay. So all of these tributaries and sub-tributaries essentially go ahead and feed so much of water volume in Amazon that what happens? You have areas that become submerged for some time in the whole year. We'll discuss that also. Correct, Pranjul Avni, badhiya. So these are the members, okay? Bolivia, Brazil, Colombia, Ecuador, Guyana, Peru. This is important for us, Venezuela. Alright, now let's look at the Amazon basin. Largest river by discharge volume of water because of 1100 plus tributaries. Okay, the largest drainage basin also. So some might think Indus drainage basin is the largest or the Nile drainage basin is the largest. You should see the Amazon drainage basin. Look at this. This whole area, okay, is its drainage basin. It's essentially going this way. Do you realize that? Extensive drainage basin. Okay. It rises more than 9 meters, flooding the surrounding forests known as Varzea, the flooded forests. Know this term, Varzea. It's because of this volume of water that it carries that you have areas that become, say, temporarily submerged. So the Varzeas are submerged. Correct, illegal mining bhi hai. Shubhankar, in fact, if you just have been following the sports news also, during the World Cup in Brazil, you had a particular forest, a stadium that was built in the middle of the Amazon forest. In the middle of the Amazon forest, I think that stadium's name is also Amazon Stadium or something like that. Okay. So this deforestation charge is not, say, unfounded. That there was no need to go ahead and make a stadium in the middle of the damn forest, but you still went ahead and did so. Anthropological intervention, which is going to harm the particular habitat or environment of that area. Okay. So a lot of problems are there in that. So more than, in fact, 1100 tributaries. Okay. So now please understand the definition of where exactly the mouth of the Amazon is located is a matter of dispute, which is why you will find some books saying that Nile and Amazon, you will find that some books saying Amazon is second, Nile is first when it comes to water volume discharge. It is because there is a dispute regarding the mouth of the river. If you look at this particular map also, you will understand that there is a certain dispute regarding the mouth of the river. Which one exactly is the one? Okay. All right. Okay, what happened here? Never mind. You can read the question anyways. Which of the following is or are not a part of the Amazon river basin? You will answer this for me now. You know that it is 8 states. Okay. 8 states, 8 countries that are a part of the Amazon river basin. I have told you which states, which countries are a part of it. Go ahead and answer this question for me. Question number 4. Okay. Question 5. Amazon rainforests comprise moist, broadleaf, tropical rainforests. What is moist broadleaf? NCERT. Go ahead, revisit it. If you don't know it, don't worry. We'll discuss this in the next class for sure. ठीक है? अवनी वो सारे आंसर आप comment box में डालिए. 1 to however number of questions that we have today. Please do that for me. Okay, guys. Number 2, Machu Picchu. How many of you know about the Machu Picchu and the Incas, guys? सुना तो सबने होगा, I'm sure. The lost tribe it is called. Have you seen this documentaries? It keeps coming on YouTube, on documentary on National Geographic, Discovery about Machu Picchu and Incas. So well, is that area part of the Amazon rainforests? Kabhi socha hai kya? You will answer this for me. Okay. And Suriname is a part of the ACTO. Identify the incorrect statements. Alright. Now why did I include this? Because again, I make my own questions. Okay. These questions are not copied from anywhere or there's no issue only. Why am I telling you this? Because again, as aware candidates, UPSC expects you to understand not just the history of the place, but also cultural significance, which is globally renowned. Okay. So again, globally renowned cultural significance. Go ahead and let me know. Okay. Next question. Okay. So this begins tomorrow, guys. Tomorrow 8 a.m. is the orientation class, which I am going to be a part of, which is why I also have an announcement regarding the editorial edge. Someone just remind me before the class ends. I'll just make a brief announcement so that you're updated. Meanwhile, this begins tomorrow 8 a.m. I am in charge of environment plus geography plus current affairs for this batch. For those of you who have signed up and have sent me emails, thank you for your faith. Okay, we'll work hard together. You will see that it will be a little different from how we approach this class. Okay, this is again on YouTube. I have a lot of people who watch, keep coming and going. You will often find the watching to be say around just 20, 25. Sometimes it goes up, sometimes it comes down. Okay, but in a class where you have signed up, the numbers are going to be a lot more regulated. There's a lot more scope for interaction and discussion there. Okay, so the orientation class is tomorrow. Entire syllabus of each and every subject up until your interviews is the focus of this prelims to interview class. If you haven't signed up, this is your probably last 12-14 hours. Go ahead and sign this. The sign up link will be in the description box. And when you go ahead and sign this, please realize that you also get the CSAT module, the answer writing module, all of that tests, handouts, notes, questions, analysis. Here I give you say questions and you give me answers, and I take a considerable amount of time to get back to you, say 5, 6, 7 days. There you get the feedback immediately. Okay, so this begins tomorrow. Use the code BA Live in the payments page because then you get allotted to my morning batch for tomorrow. Okay? Absolutely, Shubhankar. It will cover the entire syllabus of environment, forest and climate change. I will make that announcement. Just give me some time. Okay, give me some time. We'll finish the topics and then I'll clear that up for you. Okay, look at this picture now, guys. Recognize them. These three individuals, gentlemen, course mates from the National Defence Academy, friends, went together to become the chief of their respective armed forces wings. One became the chief of the army, one became the chief of the navy, one became the chief of the air force. And now together, as ex-chiefs of their individual forces, they are now in Taipei, which is in Taiwan. Okay, and they are attending a very crucial summit, which might escape, say, the notice of many individuals. But the summit that they are attending is the Ketagalan Forum. Now this summit, this forum is essentially to talk and discuss about security issues in the Indo-Pacific. Now Indo-Pacific, if you have been studying foreign relations, is a fast and loose term that is essentially used to counter China. Okay, you can understand it that way. It's essentially a coalition. You are talking about a larger paradigm of international relations designed specifically addressing the security issues arising out of Chinese dominance. Okay, I have shared a link in my Telegram channel yesterday evening, where I had the good fortune of interviewing former NSA and Foreign Secretary Shiv Shankar Menon. And so in this 1 hour lecture that this discussion we had, he has built on each and every angle of India-China relationships. I would suggest anyone who is interested in, say, you know what happens, an op-ed, when you read a particular editorial or an op-ed, say for 10 minutes, probably you will be left with say 2 to 3 fodder points at the end of it. If you are really careful enough, you will end up with say 4 to 5. But what happens if you listen to say someone, a career diplomat, talk about India-China relationship from say the trade angle, the cultural angle, the military angle, the security angle, okay, the international platforms angle. In an hour, you will cover the entire spectrum of that relationship, and from someone who is not say a UPSC teacher, that's actual guy who's done it on the ground. Okay, so go ahead and listen to it. India-China will remain a focus area. We have done many lessons and classes on that, and I will continue to do it because that is one issue that you ought to be very well aware of. Each and every angle, say from Tibet and Xinjiang and Hong Kong and Macau, South China Sea, okay, Paracel Islands, all of that. Everything needs to be on your fingertips when it comes to India-China. Okay. So coming back to this conference now, the Ketagalan conference focuses on security in the Indo-Pacific. Now what one realizes is our one China policy, which is again a gift that we have received from say previous regimes. So there is a slight dispute now regarding India's say commitment to one China policy, that it was last articulated on an official platform by the Ministry of External Affairs say back in 2007-8. So it's been good, say 10 to 15 years since you actually have had an Indian government representative actually say that yes, India is still committed to the one China policy. Okay. Eventually what you find is that there is a shift happening. Now that shift is not just trade wise. Most of us would be tempted to look at this whole relationship that India shares with China and consequently Taiwan from the angle of trade and security. But you also need to look at it from the point of culture. Okay. So you have, say, the Dalai Lama, you have Buddhism, that is a common factor when it comes to, say, India, China and Taiwan. So all of these are also being harnessed at individual levels, especially India and Taiwan. Okay. For us, say, that when you consider India and Taiwan, okay, most students will be tempted to think about just the semiconductor angle, which is obviously paradigm number one. Okay, it's the first priority. Correct. I agree. I'm not disputing that. But then there are other paradigms also that you need to look at. For example, number two, which I would consider is the India-Taiwan relationship considering the dispute between USA versus China. Okay. Another area that you should look to focus on in your answer. For example, if tomorrow you find that China goes ahead and say launches a unification measure with Taiwan, which is of the violent kind, okay, what happens then? Will USA come and step in? If USA comes and steps in to say help Taiwan, what are India's obligations? Because this time India can't be like, nahi, ye to hamara matter nahi hai, because India has signed something called the LEMOA. Okay, it has signed something called the LEMOA, which means it is committed to a certain bilateral agreement with the United States. So we'll discuss that angle also in today's lecture. Okay. So what will be India's stance if an all-out confrontation ensues, considering the LEMOA factor? Okay, we'll take a look at India-Taiwan from the LEMOA factor today. So you have the Logistics Exchange Memorandum of Understanding signed in the year, I think 2016 or 17. If memory does not fail me, it is 2016. India and US signed the LEMOA, the Logistics Agreement. What is the agreement about? We'll also discuss that. Look at it. What is the LEMOA agreement about? It gives access to designated military facilities for refueling and replenishment. So an Indian Navy can go ahead and fill fuel, say in a American naval port. Okay. पहले क्या था? वो allowed ही नहीं था. You wouldn't be allowed to dock at a USA naval port. Now, under the LEMOA, India can go ahead and do it. At the same time, you are looking at Americans who can use our facilities for refueling and replenishment. Okay, for repair also. So what does that mean now? That eventually if something happens in Taiwan, say unlike invasion of Afghanistan. Okay, I'll take you back in history and understand it in 2 minutes. So during the invasion of Afghanistan, USA went and asked India that if you want to be a part of our alliance, can we go ahead and use your particular Air Force bases, naval bases as say headquarters to launch our operations towards Afghanistan? India said no, which is why you find that USA then gravitated towards Pakistan and used their territory to launch operations into Afghanistan. So India avoided that problem there. It did not say answer in a uniform manner, yes or no, nahi karenge hum. Ab kya hai? You cannot escape it now because you are binded by the LEMOA. Okay. So it does not provide for the establishment of bases, not to be construed as say कि हाँ यहाँ पे American base बन जाएगा like Somalia or all of these bases, Camp David, or what's the base that is in Indian Ocean, guys? What's the American base just off the coast of Seychelles in the Indian Ocean? Let me know. Okay, it's just a logistical agreement. You're looking at only these two purposes plus repair. So if something gets damaged, welcome, dock at our naval port. Bring your ship down, your aircraft down to our say Meerut Air Base, get it repaired and get out. That's LEMOA. Okay. It does not create any obligation to carry out any joint activity. हम बस आपको तेल पानी पैसा देंगे, उससे आगे कुछ नहीं. ठीक है? Someone let me know. What is that US base in the middle of the Indian Ocean, just off the coast of Seychelles, near Fiji also? No, Seychelles के पास है. In the middle of nowhere, you will find a small island that is there, a US airbase. Priya, Diego Garcia is correct, Avni. Priya, PDF of environment is not provided yet. The third lecture, Priya? Okay, I am not sure. I'll upload it. Thanks for reminding me though. Thanks. Diego Garcia, correct. Correct, Shubhankar. Priya, मैं upload कर दूंगा. Thanks for reminding. I did not know that. Okay. Alright, let's look at this question, guys. Previously known as the Formosa Strait, the Taiwan Strait separates Taiwan from China. Statement 1. Statement 2. The Taipei Economic and Cultural Center in India is in New Delhi only. Like I told you, you will not look at the India-Taiwan relationship, okay, just from the angle of semiconductors. That is obviously there. You're also going to look at angles from, say, cultural exchange, okay, Buddhism being a major factor, okay. You're also going to look at, say, military, especially considering the Lemoa. So this is how you're going to frame answers for mains, guys. Because eventually the whole janta will write about semiconductors, no? So if you also write about semiconductors, तो फिर क्यों आपको extra marks देगा? Clear? So this is India, Taiwan. Okay. Let's look at the last topic for the day, and this is from the mains perspective, guys. So just listen up, because इसमें सीखने समझने का उतना कुछ ज़्यादा है नहीं. Okay. So whenever if this year, especially for the students who are appearing for mains this year, if you are given a question on, say, rural education or primary education, okay, now obviously you are going to straight away start with Right to Education 2009. That is going to be your first starting point. However, the challenges associated with that first understand the practical ones on the ground. Okay. Now, the case study that I am going to share is of an article that was published in the Economic and Political Weekly, EPW. Okay, so I'll share the article right after the class. In fact, at 9:30 only I'll share it. This article is from the Economic and Political Weekly, which I will summarize for you in, say, less than 5 minutes. Okay, so now first things first, this you have heard of, say, a million times before this, that our schools lack basic amenities. Okay, that this particular case study found that, say, students of class 1 and 2 did not have benches or chairs or fans. Okay, so they were sitting together on the ground. The higher class students, though had benches and tables, did not have, say, blackboards and chalks. Okay, forget digital class, वो सब भूल जाओ अभी. Basic, roti kapda makan. That is also not there. You are finding, say, midday meal scheme that is guaranteed under Right to Education, that the bachcha who comes will be given food, nutritious food. Okay, because you are not just looking at, say, malnutrition addressing, but also sanitation practices being introduced for a child. That's how you condition a child, no? सिर्फ खाना नहीं खिलाना है, उसको दिखाना है हाइजीन के बारे में, सैनिटेशन के बारे में. But for that you need basic infrastructure. That is non-existent. So what kind of basic infrastructure is missing? Number one, जो खाना बनाने वाला या वाली है, whoever is the person in charge of, say, the cook, the mess, the kitchen, okay, just one person doing it all. So what happens in most of the rural areas, it has been observed, especially when it relates to this particular case study, that before the midday meal scheme, the food is to be served to the children. What is found is that the children are the ones who are cutting the vegetables. Why? Because of just one individual in the kitchen. तो वो भजिया काटेगा या पढ़ाई करेगा? Okay. You are also looking at LPG, which should be given to, say, all schools. Not been given yet. Firewood is being used. Firewood causes smoke. Smoke's entering the class. Children smoking on, choking on the smoke. वो पढ़ाई क्या करेगा फिर? Do you realize that? These are the basic problems at the groundest of ground level that is happening right now. Which is what you are going to include in your answers. When you are asked to provide evidence of, say, lack of basic amenities, half of the janta will be talking about, say, an all-weather school. As the RTE Act says, you know, you need to have an all-weather school. This is the exact term used, by the way. That it should be remaining functional in, say, rainy season to winter to all seasons. It should have the infra to deal with all seasons. Here you find that the all-weather school does not have a fan. Okay. So, this is not the solution. This is what we are trained to understand, no? This is what your model Adarsh answer will be in the mains. That we should go ahead and provide school buildings and midday meals. But then that is a very uninformed thought process. What you're also going to look at is suggest behavioral changes. And on part of whom? Behavioral changes first from the parent side. Okay. So in a education, when you're talking about education, no, let's understand it this way. You have the school. Okay. Then you have the Gram Panchayat, which is the local, say, agent of the government responsible for management of the school. Then you have the student in the middle of this. And the third stakeholder is the parent. Okay. So if you just focus on this without focusing on this and this, you are never going to solve the problems of primary education. So what is the behavioral change that I am hinting at? So for example, parents, this particular case study found that say only 3% of the students had say access to mobile phones. Okay. However, out of the 3% that had access, 90+% never used the mobile phone for studies. Okay. It's used for every other purpose except studies. So you find them playing BGMI or whatever games during class hours. Now the parents, how do you address this? The parents are unconcerned. Why? Because they are daily wage workers. They have to go and work on a daily basis to earn income for their families. They do not have the time or the patience or the inclination to be involved in their child's studies. Because if they have to attend a parent-teacher meeting, okay, for that it means they are going to miss one day's income. How will they do it? So what is the way forward then? You are going to have a system wherein a parent is also included in this decision-making process without hurting the income capability of the parent, because that is primary. Okay. No parent will be like, हाँ मैं पहले बच्चे का पढ़ाई देख लेता हूँ, खाना तो बाद में खा लेंगे. ऐसे नहीं चलता है. Practical problems. Okay. Now the Gram Panchayat, this bunch of village elderly, what is their role? That they are supposed to be the monitoring body for the school. However, they think, and the common consensus that the Gram Panchayats have is that we have provided a school, बच्चे जाते हैं पढ़ने के लिए, इससे ज़्यादा और क्या चाहिए? Do you realize? So the bare minimum should not be the benchmark. The benchmark first needs to be that you just don't have an all-weather school. You also have the infrastructure, the individuals that are present there. Okay. And that there is sufficient oversight by the Gram Panchayat. Without including this body, without including the parents, the poor student will never graduate. In fact, there is a particular ASER report, the Annual Status of Education in India report. Okay. It is published by an NGO called Pratham. Okay. It is published by an NGO called Pratham. The ASER report says that say students of class 5 and 6 unable to solve English of say class 1 and 2, of maths of 1 and 2. You see, the outcome based learning that you and I focus on here, that is not happening. Why? Because again, teacher training, not there. Teacher quality, not there. Even if the teacher is capable and the quality is ensured, the teacher again is involved in various other activities on weekends or on normal days also. We discussed it today. Government teachers are the most overworked, in fact. Do you realize? So the behavioral change, the structural change that we talk about should not just be कि हाँ खाना खिला दिया, midday scheme दे दिया, free books दे दिए तो हो गया. That is an uninformed answer. So this is your model answer for the question that I will be sharing in my Telegram channel. Please go through this slide and try and answer the questions based on the practical problems that I have put forth before you, not the bookish problems. Okay. The bookish problems are included in the practical problems. Okay. So you'll answer the question. I'll upload it at 12 and send the answers to me on my email ID. Okay. Have a look at these. Firewood for cooking, students chopping veggies, no utensils, one person only. Toilets, that you need to have segregated toilets, female, male. Firstly, there is no marking. Secondly, toilets were built under the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. However, when it needed repair, there were no funds. So now the toilets that were once built are of no use, which is why you find that students now going out and defecating in the open. Boys, girls, everything. So a personal dignity of the child now getting affected. Health and sanitation to obviously खराब हो रहा है. समझ रहे हो आप? These are the practical problems, guys. Okay. Okay. Answer this question for me. Question number 7. RTE Act does not apply to educational institutions imparting primarily religious education like madrasas, Vedic pathshalas, etc. The ASER report, the annual status of education report, is published by the Ministry of Education. Statement C, originally education in India was included as a state subject. And D, post implementation of the RTE Act, education was amended to be a part of the concurrent list. Identify the incorrect statements. Okay. Identify them for me and leave all the answers from question number 1 to 7 in the comment box, please. Okay. The comment box of YouTube is your friend. Go ahead, leave the answers for me. And to the mains question that I'm going to put forth, okay, all pending answers have been cleared, by the way, for previous questions that were given to you. Send your answers on this particular email ID. Okay. Please send them in PDF format. It is easier for me to read. The JPEG format or PNG format is really difficult for my eyes. So if you convert it into PDF, it will be helpful. Okay. And in the subject box, just make sure that you write the question. Okay. Just write about, say, the status of education, so that I understand the answer. It helps me collate the answer better. Okay. Okay. So that completes this class. We have discussed 4 topics, 4 important topics. Yes, we have covered most of the angles. Nothing is left. If there are any questions, I'll take them now, guys. कोई सवाल हो तो बताएं. Any questions, any doubts? By the way, join me this evening, yes, 9 p.m. We will take a look at succession, homeostasis and pyramids of all kinds. Numbers, energy, biomass, all of that. Okay? Environment ecology should be a thrust area for you. And for those who haven't joined the P2I course, go ahead and join it. Okay, tomorrow morning 8 a.m. Yes, announcement. Yes, thank God I remembered. Okay, the announcement, guys. So editorial edge up until now has been coming at 8 a.m. for you. Okay. Tomorrow onwards, the editorial edge will begin at a slightly earlier time. Okay. For a few days only. So you're looking at probably 2 to 3, 4 weeks, for which editorial edge will start at this particular time. We will start at 6:30 a.m. and we will look to finish by 7:30 a.m. Okay, nothing else changes. All right. And I'm doing this why? Because see, I had 2 options. One was to cancel editorial edge altogether and then say devote myself fully to the prelims to interview initiative, because the classes for this are 3 hours class. So if we begin at 8, we are going to finish at 11. However, that would have meant that editorial edge ruk jata, and I don't want to do that. Okay. Whatever the number of students that I serve here every morning, that's my motivation, which is why I request you, please join me tomorrow morning 6:30 a.m. onwards. Okay. If I am up and working, you should also be working. Okay. I hope many of you will consider. Okay. And if there is any other timing that will suit your preference, let me know that in the comment box also. We can work together to find a common ground. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your time. Raghunath, Pranjul, Avni, thank you for your answers. Rajan, thank you. Have a wonderful day, guys. Have a productive day, more importantly. And make sure that you join me this evening, 9 p.m. for lecture 4 of the Aranya series. All right. On that note, thanks for watching.